Bhagavatam verse. Hare Krishna, Shri Radhe. Thank you. So we start on text number 7 of chapter 10 of Canto 7. Would you like to read, Shri Radhe?
Can you please start with this verse? I'll read the next one.
Yadi dasyasi me kaman varam stvam varadarshava kamanam ridyasam roham bhavatastu vrine varam. Translation. This is Prahlāda Maharaj answering to Nṛsiṁhadeva's offer of benedictions. O my Lord, best of the givers of benediction, if you at all want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray from your Lordship that within the core of my heart there be no material desires. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us how to pray for benedictions from the Lord. He said, Nadanam najanamna sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhaktir ahaitu kitvai. O my Lord, I do not want from you any amount of wealth, nor many followers, nor a beautiful wife, nor these, for these are all materialistic desires. But if I had to ask you for any benediction, I pray that in whatever forms of life I may take birth, under any circumstances, I will not be bereft of your transcendental devotional service. Unquote. Devotees are always on the positive platform, in contrast to the Mayavadis who want to make everything impersonal or void. One cannot remain void, shunyavadi. Rather, one must possess something. Therefore, the devotee on the positive side wants to possess something, and this possession is very nicely described by Prahlāda Maharaj, who says, if I must take some benediction from you, I pray that within the core of my heart there may be no material desires. The desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not at all material. Are we going to the next verse? Are you going to read or you want me to continue reading?
I can read, Prabhu.
Yeah, please go ahead, ma'am.
Indriyani mana prana atma dharmo driditmati Hridahishri teja smit satyam yasya nasyanti janmana. Translation. O my Lord, because of lusty desires from the very beginning of one's birth, the functions of one's senses, mind, life, body, religion, patience, intelligence, shyness, opulence, strength, memory, and truthfulness are vanquished. Purport. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kamana Rid Rogam. Materialistic life means one is afflicted by a formidable disease called lusty desire. Liberation means freedom from lusty desires, because it is only due to such desires that one must accept repeated birth and death. As long as one's lusty desires are unfulfilled, one must take birth after birth to fulfill them. Because of material desires, therefore, one performs various types of activities and receives various types of bodies with which to try to fulfill desires that are never satisfied. The only remedy is to take the devotional service, which begins when one is free from all material desires. Anya Bilasha Sunyam. Anyasa Vilasa means material desire, and Shunya means free from. The spiritual soul has spiritual activities and spiritual desires as described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mama Janmani Janmari Bhavatir Bhaktir Ahitaki Tvai. Unalloyed devotion to the service of the Lord is the only spiritual desire. To fulfill this spiritual desire, however, one must be free from all material desires. Desirelessness means freedom from material desires. This is described by Srila Rupa Goswami, Anya Bilasa Shunyam. As soon as one has material desires, one loses his spiritual identity. Then all the paraphernalia of one's life, including one's sense, body, religion, patience, and intelligence, are deviated from one's original Krishna consciousness. As soon as one has material desires, one cannot properly use his senses, intelligence, mind, and so on for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mayavadi philosophers want to become impersonal, senseless, and mindless. But that is not possible. The living entity must be living, always existing, with desires, ambitions, and so on. These should be purified, however, so that one can desire spiritually and be spiritually ambitious without material contamination. In every living entity, these propensities exist because he is a living entity. When materially contaminated, however, one is put into the hands of material misery. Janmamrityu Jara Vadi. If one wants to stop repeated birth and death, one must take to the devotional service of the Lord. Sarvabhupadi Vinirmukta Tat Pravanena Nirmalam Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ujjate. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of all senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is free from all material designations, and simply by being employed in the service of the Lord, one's senses are purified.
Any questions or comments?
But one general comment is that these verses and purports very much clarify a foundational idea of spiritual life. The spiritual life is not the annihilation of personality or the annihilation of personal desires, because many people think that spiritual life is completely opposite to material life. In material life, there are desires, so spiritual life, there should not be any desire. But that's a material calculation. In other words, it's the negation of material life, but there's nothing positive. Like Srila Prabhupada said, the devotee is always on the positive platform. So living being means a desiring being, a person who has desires, who has plans, who has ambitions, who has objectives. Just that's a basic definition of existing as a person. So there are many schools of pseudo spiritual life or semi spiritual life who try to negate these facts. But here the Bhagavatam gives the positivity. We are souls, and we can absorb all our desires, ambitions, and plans in Krishna, who is completely satisfied as an object of our desires, as an object of our satisfaction. So we may have heard it many times, but this is fundamental this distinction between personalism and impersonalism. And impersonalism means two things: no variety, nirvishesha, or emptiness, void, zero, shunyavadi. And here Srila Prabhupada very systematically, based on the scriptures and the acharyas, is dismantling this false idea. The spiritual life means depersonalization nothingness, or either nothingness or lack of variety, which it's very simple out there.
Wow. Vimuchyati yada kamam. Vimuchyati yada kamam.
I'm amazed that
Manavo manasi.
serious thinkers today continue.
Darheva pundarikaksha bhagavata bhagavatvaya kalpate. Bhagavatvaya kalpate. O my Lord, when a human being is able to give up all the material desires in the mind, he becomes eligible to possess wealth and opulence like yours. Purport. Atheistic men sometimes criticize a devotee by saying, if you do not want to take any benediction from the Lord, and if the servant of the Lord is as opulent as the Lord himself, why do you ask for the benediction of being engaged as the Lord's servant? Sridhar Swami comments, Bhagavatvaya Bhagavata Saman Aishwaryaya Bhagavatva, becoming as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, does not mean becoming one with him or equal to him. Although in the spiritual world, the servant is equal as opulent as the master. The servant of the Lord is engaged in the service of the Lord as a servant, friend, father, mother, or conjugal lover, all of whom are equally as opulent as the Lord. This is Achintya Beda Bheda Tattva. The master and the servant are different, yet equal in opulence. This is the meaning of simultaneous difference from the Supreme Lord and oneness with him. Bhagavatva, Bhagavatva, Bhagavatva.
Can you go back to this verse? So this is an interesting point that when somebody gives up the material desires, then it becomes eligible to possess wealth and opulence like God, which is a bit counterintuitive, but it's very revealing, because in other words, what cuts us off from living the opulent life of the Lord means to participate in the opulent life of the Lord, which is unlimited. There is unlimited opulence, unlimited security, safety, comfort. What cuts us off from that experience is the fact that we want to enjoy independently. And this attempt to enjoy independently places us in a very uncomfortable situation, a situation of having to struggle in this material world, life after life, experiencing death, birth, old age, disease, and all the troubles of this material embodied experience. So when one gives up the independent desire, then he gets the full fulfillment of his personality, that is being a servant of the Lord. It's just like a servant in the king's palace. He also lives in the king's palace. He also eats the same food as the king. So he shares the same opulence. But if the person wants to be rebellious to the king, then he has to go and live in some forest, hide somewhere. So that desire to enjoy separately is what interrupts our experience of the opulence of God. So I wanted to emphasize that.
But what any practical tips on when we have, say, for example, we don't have something in our life. Let's say somebody doesn't have money, and then there is a tendency to want to cheat or somehow be greedy to try to make money because of that. Or somebody doesn't have something else, they want it somehow or another, by hook or crook, in astrology terms like Rahu. Sometimes we don't have karma for something, but we want it and we try to do it in a tricky way, etc. So that is obviously like not giving up the material desire. So how do we deal with that kind of tendency when we sometimes don't have something we want and we're trying to somehow get it? How do we convince ourselves about this? What you just said was wonderful. Just practically, is there any tips on how to deal with that mentality to want to bend the karma and bend the laws of nature.
Okay.
Because there is desperation. There is such desperation for something, maybe money in some cases, or love in some cases, or something that we don't deserve it, but we want it.
That means one is not ready to practice yoga. Yoga means union. And like, for instance, in traditional Patanjali yoga system, Ashtanga yoga, one of the first, the yama and niyama, which are the foundational do's and don'ts. One foundational commandment is santosha. One has to be satisfied. So satisfaction is not a goal. Like yesterday we were discussing the difference between pure devotion and prema bhakti. Prema bhakti is the goal, pure devotion is the means. So one of the means to start yoga, to start the process of yoga, is santosha. That means one has to be satisfied, has to feel fulfilled on the material level. Of course, he will have the desire to advance in the path of yoga, in this case, the path of bhakti yoga. But the platform, the initial platform, is santosha, meaning santosha like shanti, peacefulness. Now, if one doesn't have that, it has to find that way by cultivating gratitude, by cultivating a sense control. Is a form of discipline. In other words, santosha or satisfaction is not something that, oh, I have it, oh, I don't have it. It's something that one needs absolutely to cultivate. Now, there are certain things which are legitimate, meaning, okay, if I break one leg, I need to go to the hospital and I wish the leg to be fixed because now I'm in pain and I can't function with a broken leg. So I go to the hospital, they put it together, they put some plaster. That's different.
राधा उठ जा दादा 6:15 हो गए.
So there are certain things which are legitimate needs, like minimum of clothing, minimum of a place to stay, minimum of food to eat. But beyond that, we need to be very careful if we want to be yogis. Otherwise, we can just be as materialistic people are and not be yogis. And really, it's not for us. Or we could just be peripherically engaged in spiritual life. But spiritual life, yoga is a science, and it's based on that sense of satisfaction. As I said, one should cultivate gratitude. One should see that I have enough. I have enough. And if somebody is not able to see that, then maybe the person is so much into the lower gunas, tamas guna and raja guna, and maybe he's not qualified to advance, so speak, because the mind is so agitated, and the mind is the center of the yoga system. So one can have the eagerness for advancing a spiritual life, but as far as material life, one should be satisfied. Which does not mean giving up one job or giving up on obligations or giving up different responsibilities, but one should be satisfied of what the Lord has in store for him, or him or her, what the Lord has given in this life, and appreciate that. Because greed, Krishna says, is one of the three doors that ends up that three portals to hell. And hell, not only in the sense of planetary hellish planets, but in the sense of a hellish life in which one is always burning with desires and ambitions and aspirations. So if one cannot distinguish between what is a necessary need, like food or shelter, and it's confused, bewildered, it's completely eclipsed or completely entrapped by material desires beyond the minimum, then it needs help. It needs help.
Yeah. Okay. Good answer. All right.
I can read Mataji.
Yeah, you have some. Oh, you can read. Yeah.
Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Purushaya Mahatmane Hare Abhuta Simhaya Brahmane Paramatmane. O my Lord, full of six opulences, O Supreme Person, O Supreme Soul, killer of all miseries, O Supreme Person in the form of a wonderful lion and man, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. In the previous verse, Prahlāda Maharaj has explained that a devotee can achieve the platform of Bhagavata, being as good as the Supreme Person. But this does not mean that the devotee loses his position as a servant. A pure devotee of the Lord, although as opulent as the Lord, is still meant to offer respectful obeisances to the Lord in service. Prahlāda Maharaj was engaged in pacifying the Lord, and therefore he did not consider himself equal to the Lord. He defined his position as a servant and offered respectful obeisances unto the Lord.
So who's going to read?
Anybody wants to read? I can. Shri
What is
Bhagavanu Vacha Naikantino me mai jatva iha shisha asate mutracheya bhavad vidaha tatapi manvantaram etadatra daityeshwaranam anubhukshva bhogan. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Prahlāda, a devotee like you never desires any kind of material opulences, either in this life or in the next. Nonetheless, I order you to enjoy the opulences of the demons in this material world, acting as their king until the end of duration of time occupied by Manu." Purport. One Manu lives for a duration of time calculated to be an aggregate of 71 yuga cycles, each of which equals 4,300,000 years. Although atheistic men like to enjoy material opulences and they endeavor with
it's not 4 lakhs, it's
4,300,000, sorry.
4,300,000 years.
4,300,000 years, sorry.
Or 43 lakhs.
So, although atheistic men like to enjoy material opulences and they endeavor with great energy to build big residences, roads, cities, and factories, unfortunately, they cannot live more than 80, 90, or at most 100 years. Although the materialist exerts so much energy to create a kingdom of hallucinations, he is unable to enjoy it for more than few years. However, because Prahlāda Maharaj was a devotee, the Lord allowed him to enjoy material opulence as the king of the materialists. Prahlāda Maharaj had taken birth in the family of Hiranyakashipu, who was the topmost materialist. And since Prahlāda was bona fide heir of his father, the Supreme Lord allowed him to enjoy the kingdom created by his father for so many years that no materialist could calculate them. A devotee does not have to desire material opulence. But if he is a pure devotee, there's ample opportunity for him to enjoy material happiness also, without personal endeavor. Sorry, what? A devotee does not have to desire material opulence, but if he is a pure devotee, there's ample opportunity for him to enjoy material opulence also without personal endeavor. Okay, maybe you can explain what that means. Therefore, everyone is advised to take to devotional service under all circumstances. If one desires material opulence, he can also become a pure devotee, and his desires will be fulfilled. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusha param. Whether one desires everything or nothing, he is intelligent only if he worships Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by rendering transcendental loving service. So,
Your voice comes and goes. I don't know if it's just for me or for everybody. So can you repeat the question?
what does this sentence mean? It seems a little contradictory or confusing. How can a devotee, not having material desire, have ample opportunity to enjoy material happiness without personal endeavor?
See, we need to understand the difference between material happiness and sinful activities. Here we are not talking about sinful activities. It's not saying that the devotee will smoke, will drink, will go to prostitutes and things, but the devotee can enjoy material happiness. Like, for instance, good health is a form of material happiness. Say even walking. Like Srila Prabhupada, who walk in the park every morning, the best part of the city, at the best part of the day. So that's also material happiness. Now, there's a difference between material happiness and materialistic pleasure. There's a difference. So material happiness for a devotee, just to walk in nature, is material happiness, because the material senses are satisfied. The mind is happy, the mind is controlled, they eat good food, healthy food, good food offered to Krishna. They enjoy incense offered to Krishna. They have bhajans, they have music. So this is all material happiness, in the sense that even our material senses enjoy these facilities. So, but it's not sinful, or it's not materialistic pleasures. They're just opportunities to be happy, also materially, meaning also on the level of the body, the senses, and the mind. So I don't see any contradiction or confusion. Is it clear?
I guess. I think this is the principle. There's a difference between material happiness and materialistic pleasures. Or, yeah, I thought, yeah, maybe my definition of material happiness included sinful activities or something. So I guess that's where I was. I mean, see, I tell you why I had that confusion. Because while taking a walk in the nature, a devotee is going to chant when he's going to take a walk in the nature. So it's not any more material. It's immediately spiritualized, because Prabhupada would not just walk. He'd either speak some thing, we have recordings and recordings of Prabhupada morning walks, and, he was speaking about Krishna. Or when devotee takes a walk in the nature, we chant. So my question is, like, how can a devotee ever find any material happiness without Krishna? Cannot, because he's always thinking of Krishna. He's always he's using everything in Krishna's service anyway. So I don't know. This sentence seems very off for me. This point really seems very off. It just doesn't fit into the teachings at all. How can we say that there's ample opportunity for him to enjoy material happiness also? Why should a devotee enjoy material? How can you call it material? Like you may say, oh, he may enjoy with the family or something, but it's non-material. He's thinking of Krishna. He's doing it for Krishna, right? So I don't know. Just maybe the way the way the statement is confuses my understanding of material and spiritual. Aren't we supposed to spiritualize everything material? And we do, isn't it? Like now my table, I'm sitting on my table and my chair and my computer. Am I enjoying? Is it material enjoyment? Is it material Happiness, no, because I'm reading Bhagavatam and I'm keeping Bhagavatam on the table. I'm sitting my holy backside chanting Vishnu Sahasranam. So how can that be material? The chair is used, right, for spiritual. It's spiritualized. It's not material anymore. So a devotee, there's no chance of the devotee enjoying material happiness because he will immediately spiritualize it.
Do you want to Miko to comment?
Yeah.
Okay, we need to see, this is a commentary to the verse. If you go to the verse, Nṛsiṁhadeva says, you have to enjoy. Let's see the Sanskrit. It's very clear. Okay. Go to the Sanskrit. You see, Ishwaranam, of the Daitya Ishwaranam. These are the opulences of the Deva, of the demons, okay, the Daityas, the descendants of deity. Anubhungshva, you can enjoy. Bhogan, all material opulences. So in other words, Hiranyakashipu built a huge palace with huge facilities. Probably there were gardens and there were maybe swimming pools or at least fountains and all columns of marble. I mean, let's remember, he was the king of the universe. Even Nṛsiṁhadeva was at his service. So imagine the kind of opulences he had. And Nṛsiṁhadeva is saying, don't worry, you don't have material desires, but now you enjoy this kingdom. You enjoy all that the father built. So yes, it's a question of definition. Oh, you say, well, it's a spiritualized, but still having a palace, the Hiranyakashipu's palace, it's material facilities, call it facilities. These are material facilities, marble, palaces, servants, big halls, and maybe big treasuries full of gold and gems. And Nṛsiṁhadeva is telling Prahlāda, now it's all yours, and enjoy. It doesn't mean that he will forget Krishna or he will not engage in Krishna service, but now it's his. So yeah, but it's a question of definition. You may say, well, the moment Hiranyakashipu died, the palace became spiritual, but it's not really like that. It's still a palace. It's still a material construct that Nṛsiṁhadeva is giving to Prahlāda Maharaj to enjoy, not like a materialist, like a king, devotee king. Prahlāda Maharaj is a devotee king, but still he has the opulence of a king, and he will have that facility. So
Okay.
for me, it's clear what they say.
Achha.
So it will have horses, and it will have chariots, and it will have a lot of facilities. So yeah, it will enjoy those things, not independently, not in a materialistic way, not in a sinful way, but it will have access to all those comforts and opulences.
Okay, anybody likes to read the next verse?
I can read, Mataji.
Okay.
Kathamadiya Juskamanah Priyasvam Avyeshamam Atmani Sanata Santamekam Sarveshu Bhuteshva Adhiyayagyamisham Yajasva Yogenata Karma Hinvan. Translation. It does not matter that you are in the material world. You should always continuously hear the instruction and message given by me, and always be absorbed in thought of me, for I am super soul existing in the core of everyone's heart. Therefore, give up fruitive activities and worship me. Perfect. When a devotee becomes materially very opulent, one should not think that he is enjoying the One should not think that he is enjoying the results of his fruitive activities. A devotee in this material world uses all material opulences for the service of the Lord. And because he is planning how to serve the Lord with these opulences, as advised by the Lord himself, whenever whatever material opulence is within his possession, he engages to expand the glories and service of the Lord. A devotee never performs any fruitive or ritualistic ceremony to enjoy the results of such karma. Rather, a devotee knows that the karma kanda is meant for the less intelligent man. Narottam Das Thakur says in his Prema Bhakti Chandrika, Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Kevala, Vishera Bhanda. Both Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, fruitive activities and speculation about the Supreme Lord, are like thoughts of poison. One who is attracted by the Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda spoils his existence as human being. Therefore, a devotee is never interested in Karma Kanda or Jnana Kanda, but is simply interested in favorable service to the Lord. Anukulena Krishna Anuchilanam, or cultivation of spiritual activities in devotional service.
भोगेन पुण्यं कुशलेन पापं कलेवरं जवेन हित्वा कीर्तिं विशुद्धं सुरलोकगीतं वितायमं एष्यसि मुक्तबन्धः. My dear Prahlāda, while you are in this material world, you will exhaust all the reactions of pious activities by feeling happiness. And by acting piously, you will neutralize impious activity. Because of the powerful time factor, you will give up your body, but the glories of your activities will be sung in the upper planetary systems. And being fully freed from all bondage, you will return home back to Godhead. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Evam Prahlādasyam Shena Sadhana Siddhatvam Nitya Siddhatvam Cha Naradadivajagnyeyam. There are two classes of devotees, the Sadhana Siddha and the Nitya Siddha. Prahlāda Maharaj is a mixed Siddha. That is, he's perfect partly because of executing devotional service and partly because of eternal perfection. Thus, he is compared to such devotees as Narada. Formerly, Narad Muni was the son of a maid servant, and therefore in his next birth he attained perfection, sadhana siddhi, because of having executed devotional service. Yet he is also Nitya Siddha because he never forgets the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Kushalena is very important. One should live in the material world very expertly. The material world is known as the world of duality because one sometimes has to act impiously and sometimes has to act piously. Although one does not want to act impiously, the world is so fashioned that there is always danger. Padam padam yatve padam. Thus, even when performing devotional service, a devotee has to create many enemies. Prahlāda Maharaj himself had experience of this, for even his father became his enemy. A devotee should expertly manage to think always of the Supreme Lord so that the reactions of suffering cannot touch him. This is the expert management of Papa Punya, pious and impious activities. An exalted devotee like Prahlāda Maharaj is Jivan Mukta. He is liberated even in this very life in the material body, Okay.
Ya etat kirtayanmahyam svaya gitamidam nara chamam chasmaram kale karma bandhat pramuchate. Translation: one who always remembers your activities and my activities also, and would chant the prayers you have offered, becomes free in due course of time from the reactions of material activities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here it is stated that anyone who chants and hears about the activities of Prahlāda Maharaj and in relation with Prahlāda's activities, the activity of Nṛsiṁhadeva, gradually becomes free from all bondage of fruitive activities. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:15 and 2:56, Yamina vyatayantyete purusham purushashabha samadhuka sukambhiram so maritatvaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Dukeshanu vignamana sukeshu vigata spriha vitaragabhaya krodha stitadirmuni uchate. One who is not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries and who is not elated when there is happiness and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger is called a sage of steady mind. And the devotee should not be aggrieved in an awkward position, nor should he feel extraordinarily happy in material opulence. This is the way of expert management of material life. Because the devotee knows how to manage expertly, he is called Jiva Mukta. As Rupa Goswami explains in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Yasya Harirdasya Karmanama Nasagira Nikilaswapiya Vastasu Jiva Mukta Sauchate. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person, even within this material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. Because of constantly engaging in devotional service in any condition of life, a devotee is free from all material bondage. Bhakti punati manishta swapakam api sambhavat. Even one born in a family of meat eaters is purified if he engages in devotional service. Bhagavatam 11:14-21. Srila Jiva Goswami cites this verse in logically supporting that anyone who chants about the pure life and activities of Prahlāda Maharaj is freed from the reactions of material activities.
Shri Prahlāda Vacha Varam Varaya etatte Varadeshan Maheshwara Yad Anindat Pitame Tvam Avidvam Steja Aishwaram Viddhamarshashaya Shakta Sakshat Sarvaloka Gurum Prabhum Bhratraheti Mrisha Dhritis Drishtis Tvadbhakte Mai Chagavan Tasmat Pitame Puyeta Duranta Dushtarad Aghat Putaste Panga Samdrishtas Tada Kripanavatsala. Prahlāda Maharaj said, "O Supreme Lord, because you're so merciful to the fallen souls, I ask you for only one benediction. I know that my father at the time of his death had already been purified by your glance upon him. But because of his ignorance of your beautiful power and supremacy, he was unnecessarily angry at you, falsely thinking that you were the killer of his brother. Thus, he directly blasphemed your lordship, the spiritual master of all living entities, and committed heavily sinful activities directed against me, your devotee. I wish that he be excused, sorry. I wish that he be excused for all these sinful activities." Purport. Although Hiranyakashipu was purified as soon as he came in contact with the Lord's lap, and the Lord saw him, Prahlāda Maharaj still wanted to hear from the Lord's own mouth that his father had been purified by the Lord's causeless mercy. Prahlāda Maharaj offered this prayer to the Lord for the sake of his father. As a Vaishnava son, despite all the inconveniences imposed upon him by his father, he could not forget his father's affection. Amazing, huh?
Playing from OnePlus Norton 5G.
I can read Mataji.
But it doesn't mean that Prahlāda Maharaj is like attached to the father. Is it like materialistic affection or?
What do you think?
I mean, he was a small baby, so maybe he was kind of attached to the father in some way.
Well, just like Srila Prabhupada explained, that no, Hiranyakashipu at one point had been affectionate towards him. He was just overwhelmed by his enmity towards Vishnu Narayan, and so Prahlāda Maharaj is reciprocating that. It's also showing an example that one should not hold grudges for somebody who may have turned into an enemy.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Interesting point.
The attachment, there are natural connections. Attachment generally means that one is distracted by that attachment. It becomes this distraction. It becomes somewhat a diversion from one's duty, from one's dharma. But in this case, obviously, he will continue being Prahlāda Maharaj. At the same time, he's saying, "Look, it was good to me at one point, so please help him progress."
Okay. Okay. What comes to my mind is like sometimes people become attached to their abusers, and Hiranyakashipu was abusing Prahlad so much, and some kind of trauma bonding happened there or something. Anyway, I don't know, it's a different subject matter, but in the psychology world, when somebody's like abuser, somebody's a narcissistic person, if the parent is a narcissist, then the child develops a kind of a bond. It's called trauma bond. So they kind of get bonded based on the trauma that's been created, and in all life they kind of look for people that they bond in that kind of traumatic way. So anyway, I was thinking of this attachment seems a little bit like that, but it's different because he's wishing spiritual liberation. He's wishing spiritual things. It's not like he's not like attached to being abused or something. So that's the difference, I guess. Yeah. Rukmini Premataji, you can continue.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Tri Saptavi Pita Puta Pitrivi Saha Te Nagaha Yad Sado Sna Kule Jato Vavan Vaikula Pavana. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Prahlāda, O most pure, O great saintly person, your father has been purified, along with 21 forefathers in your family. Because you were born in this family, the entire dynasty has been purified." Purport. The word Trihi Saptabihi means 7 multiplied by 3. In one's family, one can count back 4 or 5 generations to one's great-grandfather or even one's great-grandfather's father. But since Lord mentions 21 forefathers, this indicates that the benediction expands to other families also. Before the present family in which one has taken birth, one must have been born in other families. Thus, when a Vaishnava takes birth in a family, by the grace of the Lord, he purifies not only that family, but also families of his previous birth. Wow, 21 families, 21 generations.
Yeah. Yatra yatra cha madbhakta prashanta samadarshina sadhava samudacharaste puyante pi kikataha. Whenever and wherever there are peaceful, equipoised devotees who are well behaved and decorated with all good qualities, that place and the dynasty there, even if condemned, are purified. Wherever exalted devotees stay, not only they and their dynasties, but the entire country is purified. Wow. No wonder when somebody is coming, oh, this person is coming to this country, and everything is like, everybody is like getting ready. सर्वात्मना न हिंसान्ति भूताग्रामेषु किंचन उच्चावाचेषु दैत्येन्द्रा मद्भावा विगतस्पृहा. My dear Prahlāda, king of the Daityas, because of being attached to devotional service to me, my devotee does not distinguish between lower and higher living entities. In all respects, he is never jealous of anyone. That's it. There was no purport, right?
Yeah.
Bhavanti purusha loke madbhaktastvamanuvritaha bhavan me kalu bhaktanam sarvesham pratirupadrik. Those who follow your example will naturally become my pure devotees. You are the best example of my devotee, and others should follow in your footsteps. In this connection, Srila Madhvacharya quotes a verse from Skanda Purana. Rite tu tatvikan devan Naradadim stataiva cha Prahlādad uttamah konu Vishnu bhaktau jagatraya. There are many devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they have been enumerated in Srimad Bhagavatam as follows. Swayambhur Narada Shambhu Kumara Kapilo Manuhu Prahlādo Janako Bhishmo Balirvaya Sakirvayam. Of the 12 authorized devotees, Lord Brahma, Narada, Lord Shiva, Kapila, Manu, and so on, Prahlāda Maharaj is understood to be the best example. Wow.
It could also be that it's the best example because if you look at everybody else, he is the one who was under most difficult circumstances, and also he was not even an adult. In other words, somebody's grown up, so you may say, well, he's got a lot of philosophy and so on. But Prahlāda Maharaj, of course, he learned from Narada Muni directly in the womb. At the same time, he was a child, so he was completely vulnerable, and he had unimaginable opposition from the father himself, not from an enemy. See, one thing is from an enemy, it's an enemy, and it will try to harm. But this is the father who was, at one point, was very affectionate. So perhaps that's one element that makes Prahlāda Maharaj so exceptional also among these great devotees.
Wow. Yeah, it's true.
So his tolerance, he had such great tolerance. So this was all learned from Narada Muni, Prabhu?
Pardon? Was learned, huh?
Yeah, like he had such great tolerance to tolerate everything his father did to him. So, I'm just saying how he learned that from Narada Muni within the womb.
I would say yes, of course. He will certainly give the credit to his guru. At the same time, the guru can only give information, and then also depends on the quality of the disciple, on how well the disciple can absorb, assimilate, and express those instructions. So definitely, yes, the disciple will give the credit to the guru, but in this case, he had some very special, innate qualities that made him capable of assimilating completely the instructions of the guru.
Should we go next? One more verse. We have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Kuru tvam preta krityani vithu putasya sarvashah madanga sparshanenanga lokanyasti suprajaha. My dear child, your father has already been purified just by the touch of my body at the time of his death. Nonetheless, the duty of a son is to perform the Shraddha ritualistic ceremony after his father's death, so that his father may be promoted to a planetary system where he may become a good citizen and devotee. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that although Hiranyakashipu was already purified, he had to take birth on a higher planetary system to become a devotee again. Prahlāda Maharaj was advised to perform the ritualistic ceremony as a matter of etiquette. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead under no circumstances want to stop the regulative principles. Madhva Muni also instructs, Madhu Kaitabhau Bhaktya Bhava Dura Bhagavato Mritao Tama Eva Kramadaptao Bhaktya Chedyo Harim Yayao. When the demons Madhu and Kaitabha were killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their kinsmen also observed the ritualistic ceremonies so that these demons could return home back to Godhead. Wow. Wow. Krishna consciousness is far out. Prityam chastanam atishta yatoktam brahmavadibhi maya veshamanastata kudu karmani matparah. After performing the ritualistic ceremonies, take charge of your father's kingdom. Sit upon the throne and do not be disturbed by materialistic activities. Please keep your mind fixed upon me without transgressing the injunctions of the Vedas. As a matter of formality, you may perform your particular duties. See, again, I feel like this contradiction. There was earlier saying enjoy material happiness, and now here is saying don't be disturbed by materialistic activities. How can you enjoy materialist happiness if you don't get disturbed by material activities?
Huh? How can you? What?
How can you enjoy if you don't get disturbed by it?
Well, here, from what I understand, is saying, look at the Sanskrit. Pitriyam Shastanam Atishta. You take the throne of your father, the stanam, the position of your father. Okay? Yata Ukta Brahmavadibi. And do things according to the Vedas. Mai Avesha Mana Tata. Always be absorbed in me. Kuru Karmani Matpara. And do your duties as my service to me, matpara, for me. So Srila Prabhupada kinds of expands the translation to say, okay, do not be disturbed by materialistic activity, meaning do your duty. There is this kingdom to manage. So there are certain things that will come. Obviously, king means all the problems come to him. So but this basically say it, do your duty, follow the Vedas, always think of me, do things for me, and don't worry, don't worry. Just perform your activities. And running a kingdom means, you have to see so many things. You have to just managing a family, there are so many headaches, but to speak of managing a kingdom, which is millions of families, hundreds of thousands of families, and so many considerations, foreign policy, military, the economy, and so on, the taxation. So he say basically, do it, do this service for me. And so Srila Prabhupada kind of expands and say, okay, don't worry, don't be disturbed by materialistic activity. Meaning don't be disturbed by this kingly duties.
Yeah.
We read the purport and then maybe we finish unless there is something.
When one becomes a devotee, he no longer has any duty to the Vedic regulative principles. One has many duties to perform, but if one becomes fully devoted to the Lord, he no longer has any such obligations. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.541, Devarshi bhupta nrinam pitrinam nakinkaro nayam rinancha rajan sarvatmaya sharanam sharanyam gato mukundam parihritya kartam. One who is fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord is no longer a debtor to his forefathers, the great sages, human society, the common man, or any living entity. The Supreme Personality of Godhead nonetheless advised Prahlāda Maharaj to follow the regulative principles, for since he was going to be the king, others would follow his example. Thus, Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva advised Prahlāda Maharaj to engage in his political duty so that people would become the Lord's devotees. Yad yad acharati shreshta tat tat eva taro jana sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Bhagavad Gita 3:21. One should not be attached to any materialistic activities, but a devotee may perform such activities as an example to show the common man that one should not deviate from the Vedic injunctions.
Okay, anything else on this?
No, not for me.
Okay, so should we stop here or should we do? So we thank whoever attended and whoever is going to watch this in the future. Thank you very much. Krishna's mercy, we have another one tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu Mataji.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji.
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, प्रहलाद महाराज
जय।
की जय।
Jai.